in 1991.
I'm embarrassed to say that I don't remember that encounter. But I do remember that a mutual friend of ours called home and said, "You've got to meet Marsha Russell, she's pretty amazing."
I've known Rick, however, since 1993. That's when I started saying, he's my best friend.
And you've all seen us together. Marsha's my best friend.
Rick's my rock.
Marsha's my confessor.
He'd like to say that he's my fashion consultant.
But you have all seen how we dress. Marsha is my technology go-to. How do you do that on the computer?
Rick's my listening board.
Marsha is my sympathetic listener.
He's my comfort.
We're best friends.
Since this is Diversity Day, here are some of the things that make us different.
We actually come from rather different backgrounds. Marsha's white.
I was taught not to say Mexican. Is Hispanic any better?
No, we're going to do that later. Marsha is a city girl.
Rick is a country boy. His parents made it through the 4th grade.
Marsha's parents had advanced degrees.
You probably don't need me to tell you this, but Rick is a talker.
Marsha's a listener. She's an introvert.
Rick is an extrovert.
That being said, when I was 30 years old, I quit teaching. I was calling myself a writer, but I had very little to show for it, so I quit teaching for a year and I developed a one-man show which I called Ukui, the Mexican Boogeyman. It was a collage of personal narratives woven into traditional Hispanic folklore and ghost stories. The show described El Ojo, the evil eye, La Llorona, a crying ghost woman who's in search of her drowned babies, the Lechuza, a witch-turned owl that professes an evil omen. Those were all interesting stories, but the real ghost stories were my family stories. I was a Mexican-American who didn't speak Spanish. I grew up in a part of the state where Latins were lower-class farm labor, yet my family members were landowners, farmers, and ranchers. My show also addressed my rebellion from my Catholic religion and all its guilt. One of the scenes of the show starts with this line. It was my first communion, and the body of Christ got stuck to the roof of my mouth. I tried to scrape him out with my tongue. The title, Ukui, which means boogeyman, comes from a piece about my father's alcoholism and family neglect. The piece describes my dad coming home from a night of drinking, and I compare his arrival to a West Texas thunderstorm tornado. I believe the artist must examine his soul. My one-man show was also my first platform to publicly discuss my sexuality in a macho Mexican culture. There's a piece about a dad who gets pissed off when he sees that his little boy wants a Susie bake oven for Christmas, and the dad takes that toy off the list. There's a piece about a big brother who tries to teach his little brother how to fight, how to be tough like a real man. And another about a faggot sissy boy. Mujeringa is the slang term in Spanish. That piece is about a mujeringa who gets beat up simply for being a faggot sissy boy. My mom had seen me perform several times as I was traveling across the Southwest from city to city at theater conventions conventions, diversity days, much like today. I was scheduled to perform at the UT Permian Basin campus in Odessa, Texas. It was the closest I was going to get to my hometown, so all the Garcias loaded up and were going to go see Rick Garcia perform his play. It was 10 minutes before I went on. And my mother came to my dressing room and she goes, "You know your dad's in the audience." I said, "I know. Ricky, we're real proud of you. But I don't like the way you talk about Jesus. And I don't like the way you talk about your dad. Can you take those pieces out?" I can't rewrite this show. It was a tough performance, but I got through it. Afterwards, there was a party, my cousins were celebrating, congratulating me, and there were no real alarms from my dad. The following day, I followed my mom and dad home because I had a couple of days off. I remember I was in my back old bedroom writing, and I heard my dad in the living room. He had purchased a video copy of the play, put it in the VCR, and he was rewatching my performance. My mom came into the room a little later and she said, "You better go in there, he's crying pretty hard." I went in and we finished watching the show together and we cried together. At the end of the video, he said what I had waited 30 years to hear. He said, "You're pretty good. You're better than anything I see on television." And then he asked why I had to tell our stories out loud. Where did I learn to do that? My dad's a deacon in our church. He's an amazing storyteller. When my father preaches, people listen. I told him, "Dad, I learned it from you." That day changed my life. Oral confession has always been a part of my Catholic culture, no matter how hard I rebelled from it. I had to say things out loud. I had to face the story inside myself, to accept myself, forgive myself. That day changed a relationship with a man that I thought hated me. A man that I thought was embarrassed of his son. But my father never really used any ugly language. The outside world, outside of my family, used that language. The language of fear, which we call hate. My father that day spoke like a true hero. He accepted me then, and he accepted me always. It's ironic. I now own his ranch. Words can be painful. Words don't just describe who we are. Words also shape who we become. I have to speak words out loud to shape myself and to end my discomfort. Oh yes, I'm a talker. I'm an extrovert. Marsha, why are you so silent?
Why am I silent? Why have I been silent about the whole person who I am? I'm going to tell you, but I need you to know that this is hard because I have never said these things out loud. I need to give you some backstory. My mother died when I was 3, so all of my significant others when I was a little girl were male. My daddy, my papa, my brothers, all of them were my mother. They loved and nurtured and cared for me. We had little money, so my father cut my hair himself, and when my brothers outgrew their clothes, they were passed down to me. I climbed the chinaberry tree in the backyard with my brothers, chased crawdads in the creek, down the alley with them, played kick the can at dusk every night. They taught me everything they knew and made me a good little last picture. All the frilly little girls, and me, looking like a little boy, in my big brother's red, white, and blue jacket. I knew even then I was different, but I thought it was because my mother had died. 5th grade. Melinda was my very first best friend. We rode our bikes around on the dirt roads and gobbled down chocolate chip cookies and drank strawberry Kool-Aid. I wrote Marsha and Melinda on my baby blue spiral notebook. When Melinda saw it, she started acting weird. I asked her why on the playground, and she said, "Girls don't like girls." I said, "What? You don't want me to like you?" And she shot back, "Not like that." I said, "Like what? What do you mean?" I had no idea what she was talking about. But after that, I was ostracized for being different. And I still didn't know what that meant. 9th grade. My boyfriend, Rusty, who worked at a convenience store, brought some paperbacks to me when I was sick at home. One was about boys who like boys. I didn't even read it, but I saw enough of it to put it in the garbage can, knowing that sexual content would upset my Methodist minister father if he ever happened to find it. My mean stepmother found it in the garbage can and, foaming at the mouth, stormed into my room and reamed me out about what filth it was. She told me that my mother would be so ashamed of me if she were still alive. 11th grade. I had the sudden disturbing insight that I cared much more about my best friend Barbara than I did about my boyfriend Danny. I also had the instant understanding that I could not tell anyone that, since girls aren't supposed to like girls more than boys. Still, it never dawned on me that I was one of those. I wasn't, in my stepmother's word, a filthy person. I was a nice person. I loved my daddy, I did my homework, I worked hard, I was kind and did all I could to help my friends. I didn't do any of those things other people did that would get me in trouble and embarrass my father, the minister. I always had a boyfriend. I was just different. 21 years old, college. A sorority sister comes in and tells me that people are saying I'm a lesbian. I fiercely, vigorously deny it. I've never done anything to deserve that. How many guys did I have to be with before people stopped thinking they knew me better than I knew myself? Looking back, I see that I was like Cleopatra, the queen of denial. But what all of those experiences were doing was putting labels on what I absolutely was not allowed to be. The effect was to make me wonder if what they were saying was true. Did they see something I didn't? I wasn't quite sure who I was, but no matter what, I could not be this. To be this thing, the message was to face hostility, rejection, ridicule. To be this thing, the message was, would bring shame to myself and to those whom I loved. So, 23 years old. The hottest summer in Central Texas in decades. I was dating John, the SMU graduate student in theology, when all my painstaking construction of myself as an upstanding, righteous, straight woman collapsed with the sudden, completely unexpected beginning of a new and forbidden relationship in an intense time that is way too personal and precious to talk about. I didn't even know how to tell John why I wouldn't be seeing him anymore. After the terrifying first few weeks, I knew there was no turning back. But now what the hell was I going to do about the whole rest of the world? Fearful that I was going to be transparent to those who knew me, that they would be able to see some glowing scarlet L on my forehead, I withdrew from contact with every other person I knew and loved. Some months into this relationship, a dear childhood friend, the younger sister of my big brother's best friend, called me on the phone. She'd seen my brother at a funeral, and my brother had pulled her aside, asking if she knew anything about what was happening with me. Who was this woman I was living with, and what was going on? My friend knew nothing, since I had no contact with her either. But my brother ended the conversation with her by saying, "I'd rather she were a prostitute than a lesbian." That sealed it. My response was to grow silent. When I began my teaching career a few years later, I knew on day one that I had the perfect job. I was passionate about the stuff I taught. I was fascinated by seeing my students learn, and I genuinely loved those kids. I believed I'd been born to teach, and I seemed to have the gift. Except that who I was in my private life was against the law in the state of Texas. If the Texas State Board of Education got wind of my private life, my teaching certificate, my teaching contract could be terminated because of what was termed moral turpitude, no matter how skilled a teacher and good a person I was. So I descended further into the caverns of silence. I chose silence, Rick, because I thought it was my only choice. I chose silence because I thought it was the only thing that could protect me and keep me safe. I let friendships lapse and avoided my family so much that I later found out my parents believed I'd severed ties with them. I became guarded, careful, cautious about being myself with others. I learned to ask questions when having conversations with other people because it steered the conversation away from me. It meant that I revealed little to colleagues and even less to my students, with whom a state of unbeing became second nature. My colleagues talked with their students naturally and comfortably about their real lives, the names of their husbands and wives, funny stories about their children. Boy, not me. What I believed I could share with my students of my real life ended with the moment I drove out of the teacher parking lot. If my partner and I were in the mall or the grocery store and a student appeared, my partner knew to melt into the crowd as if I were a stranger. That silence began 34 years, 6 months, and 26 days ago. What I did not realize at the time that I embraced it was the price that silence would exact from me. Rather than being a safe haven, what it really did was become my prison cell. Okay, fast forward to right this red hot second. The world has changed in that time. The United States Supreme Court struck down Texas sodomy laws in 2003, and I no longer fear losing my job if people know, thanks to the kindness, strength, and unwavering support of heroic people like Lucy Nazareth. Over those years, people and their attitudes have changed a lot, and I have gradually let down my guard some. My brothers, even and especially that one, all know and love me and my partner as equal members of our family. I've proudly taken my partner with me to faculty parties, and I've reestablished honest, meaningful contact with all my lifelong friends and have been embraced by all of them except one. So ending the silence with you today is my final pearl. Why even now does shattering that silence with you, my beloved students, former students, and future students, make me afraid? What it comes down to is my fear that you will reject me, that you will laugh at me, either to my face or behind my back, that you will sneer or make snide comments or label me as just this one thing, or otherwise turn into those hateful, narrow-minded people of 30 years ago who made me fearful of being completely and authentically who I am, who made me believe that this one little part of the whole person I am made me unlovable. But here's the thing. The problem is that my silence assumes and expects the worst in people. By being silent, how many people have I prevented from being able to show me that they just don't care that I'm a little bit different from them? How much healing might have happened if I had just talked with my daddy, the same man who I had admired as a child for heroically defying some racist church members by calling for an end to racism from his pulpit in the 1960s. How much good would it have been for both of us if I had given him the opportunity to tell me he loved me no matter what before he died? How many would-be friends felt as if they'd been stiff-armed emotionally by my clamming up when conversation came to my personal life? How many students have I shortchanged by worrying that if they knew more about me, they'd be less open to learning from me? How many students struggling with their own identities, feeling like outsiders themselves, might have benefited from seeing my own self-acceptance? My philosophy as a teacher has always been that I'd rather give my students the benefit of a doubt, be made a fool of for trusting too much, rather than communicating mistrust of them. But now I realize that my wall of silence between us has assumed I could not trust my students' ongoing respect and goodwill. It wrongly